when I spoke at BitBlock Boom, my topic was on block space scarcity and, my feelings about how scarce it was going to be, what the implications of that were going to be. And at the end of the talk, which is available publicly to anybody that wanted to hear it, but at the end of the talk, one of the things that I predict is that at some point, it might be 3 years from now, it might be 10 years from now, we'll see an initiative come to try to reduce block time. So we've already had the block size wars. I predict a block time war where what will happen is somebody will say, hey, the subsidy has come down to a point now where inflation is essentially zero, right? So you're approaching that point. So maybe 2 more halvings, we get to the point where inflation is now negligible. And the belief is we need to increase the processing capacity of the network. And we've already lost the block size war. So another way to approach that is the block time war. So if we say, well, we can double the capacity of the network by shifting the block times from 10 minutes to 5 minutes, this is just a prediction. And it's one of those ones I hope is not true.
You think people are going to fall for that?
Well, I think they could, because I think some of the actors who may promote it will not be just big miners, but also maybe like a BlackRock, a Fidelity, who are trying to reduce the fee rates. If you're out there and you're motivated to reduce the fee rates and increase the number of transactions that the base layer can do, it's honestly the only lever you have left. Like right now, it wouldn't work, right? It would be a mess roar because you'd say, well, you've radically changed the inflation rate, right? But if the inflation rate is already down to zero, let's say in the year 2030, we've gone through really 3 more halvings by then, right? So we're down to a subsidy in the 0.78 range. I think it's 2032. They'd say, well, now we're introducing, 0.78 times 210,000 blocks is only 140,000 Bitcoin or something like that, right? So doubling, making that come a little faster really won't change the inflation rate. So anyway, the reason I say it though is that I want to say it to people in a preemptive way so that the community can, the first time this idea comes up, and I'm sure it will, that we squish it. Like, don't let it get momentum.
Okay, so here's my prediction when I hear that. First of all, I think the 10-minute intervals are way more, engraved in the collective consciousness of Bitcoiners than the 1 megabyte blocking size limit was, because that was sort of an arbitrary number that just happened way earlier when they didn't have any thoughts about the consequences of that way later down the line. So the 1 megabyte thing is more arbitrary than the 10 minutes, because it's sort of it has to do, the 10 minutes are very much connected with the difficulty adjustment, because difficulty adjustment, everyone knows 2 weeks. Not everyone knows 2016 blocks, but that's why it is 2 weeks. It's because of the 10 minutes. So the 10 minutes decide the 2 weeks, and the 2 weeks decide the 10 minutes. You can't have one without the other. So that's the thing. So I think this is, and if you add to that the history of the block size wars, and that we have the UASF and whatever played out there, if that's in the collective memory as well, then we will remind everyone why this is important, why Bitcoin is immutable. This is what immutability means, that the users are in control. And then BlackRock can advertise bullshit as much as they could. But still, at the end of the day, I think more and more people over time will converge to Bitcoin conservatism, if you will, rather than Bitcoin progressivism, because the risks of changing the protocol are, I could argue that we're already at the point where it's more dangerous to try to change it than to just keep it the way it is and do everything by soft fork, everything by layer 2. And even, the whole prediction that time space will be scarcer. I prefer to call it time space because it's cooler
I got it.
than block space. the time chain, space, time, space. So time space will be a scarce asset, but we got lightning and we got liquid and we got all of this other stuff. And I think the biggest problem is mainly just people's imagination. Because like if money is just information, we can do all sorts of other ways of transacting, like keeping a tab on one another and whatnot, and like not using Bitcoin at all with people we trust, but just barter. You know what I mean? So and also I think another underestimated effect of people's lowered time preference and Bitcoiners being awesome to one another because we're incentivized to help one another is that we make fewer transactions per time unit because of this lowered time preference. Like, so Bitcoiners don't like to spend that much. We like to save, and we would like to make a big payment every now and then, but we prefer not to make smaller payments. Like, that's your this. And if we do, it's off chain anyway. So I think it's a problem that very likely will sort itself out, in ways we might not be able to imagine yet, but
yeah, clearly I agree with you on the importance of the activities above the base layer, whether that's Lightning or Liquid or Fedimint or, those sort of things are absolutely critical. I do want to be very clear that I am in no way trying to support this initiative. I'm just trying to be a potential, like, hey, watch out for this, because I can see the way that they think and that they're going to look at this and see it as a potential manipulation point.